All right, welcome to my presentation. So for my action research plan, I did improving confidence in building classroom management as a beginning teacher. So my action research question was, how do I improve confidence as a new teacher to effectively establish classroom management in both primary and junior grades? I focused on both primary and junior because that was my age group in the division I'm in within my education program. So my statement of research problem, sorry, just gonna get rid of that comment, was the problem I've developed to explore is new teacher confidence in relation to classroom management. Classroom management is something I myself have struggled with establishing because I often come across as too much of a friend rather than an authoritative role. As a beginning teacher and someone who will soon be an occasional teacher, I want to be able to learn to establish different techniques to strengthen my classroom management and have students respect and understand me as more of a teacher rather than a buddy. I believe that this is a current and important topic that will benefit not only myself but other teachers new to the profession looking to gain a little more control and establish a presence in a classroom. Sorry again with the comment. So again, I just kind of went over my research questions and I kind of narrowed it down from a problem statement to a research question. So up here, you can just see these are kind of ideas that I had, and then highlighted in orange is the question that I have selected. So my problem statement was, my classroom management needs to be more proactive. I need to be able to have more confidence in my teaching. So then I turned that into a question and I said, how do I improve confidence as a new teacher to effectively establish classroom management in both primary and junior grades? Sorry, I'm really bad at the comments today. So some definitions of central and relevant terms, relevant terms that I have made. I did management, so the organization and coordination of activities of a business in order to achieve defined objectives. Classroom management, so you can see kind of like the build between the two. So skills and techniques that teachers use to keep students organized, orderly, focused, attentive, on task, and academically productive during class time. Confidence, so it's the feeling or belief that one can rely on something or someone, so it's a firm trust. And then what is an occasional teacher? So it's a temporary teaching position in which you supply or take the place of a full-time instructor who is absent from their position, typically absent for one day. So those are just kind of some central terms that are super relevant to my research question. So my first annotated, this is just now moving into my annotated bibliography. I'm not going to go through them very in depth, but my first one is an online journal article called Elementary Classroom Management, and it's actually a handbook of excellence in teaching. So I found this really interesting because the text dictates certain classroom management strategies. But one thing that really caught my attention was the arrangement of the physical space of a classroom and emphasizing the classroom as the third teacher. So I thought that was really important, and how, as a beginning teacher, you can rearrange a classroom to support your students' learning as best as possible. So that's what really caught my eye about Charles's online journal, sorry. He also talks about managing student behavior through implementing classroom routines, because classroom routines, especially with students with exceptionalities, just provides a different level of structure and kind of a normalcy that they find really calming and that they can get used to. So my second annotated, another comment, my second annotated bibliography that I included was by Evertson, and it's called Classroom Management for Elementary Teachers. So this obviously caught my attention right off the bat because it had elementary teachers in the title itself. So I knew this was going to be strictly dictated to the age group I was looking at for my research project. So this caught my eye for that reason, but it also integrated discipline into the study, which I thought was really interesting because when you hear discipline, you automatically kind of have a negative connotation to it. But I think it's really important for emerging teachers and new coming teachers to know that discipline doesn't always really mean bad. It just means structure. And it helps the students kind of find that balance and that peace of mind within their own day-to-day work. So I think it's really important to incorporate discipline into your classroom management and establish that early on as a new teacher. So my final literature piece of bibliography that I'm using is by Veenman. So it's perceived problems of beginning teachers. So obviously this caught my eye because it talks about beginning teachers and new teachers and teachers that don't necessarily have that experience or that history in a class. So this article talks about the difficulties that beginning teachers face. So that was really interesting to me, and I kind of related that back to classroom management strategies, because if I have this base knowledge of, oh, this has happened in the past, this is previous, how can I work around it? How can I take that knowledge and move forward? That was really interesting to me. So I found this piece of literature very interesting and very helpful. It also relates misunderstandings and worries occasional teachers have, and then kind of how to combat these worries and kind of work with them rather than fear them. So this is just my literature summary. Talks about all three of the articles I have just summarized. I'm not going to really go through that again because that would be pretty redundant. But yeah, it just summarizes my last three articles and why I found them so resourceful and so useful. So that's 10, 11, and 12. So moving into my actual research action plan, what data sources are you using? So the data sources I've selected are online journals, performance reviews, and student reflections. So online journals, like the ones I've previously shown you, I chose these because it provides ample research and examples of previous newcoming teachers and what they have experienced and how they counteracted it. So how they took that fear and that worry and how they worked with it. This data source is a great beginning step to understand the background of a research inquiry, and then it kind of leads you to conduct your own. So then that's where I have picked performance reviews. So as a teacher, I would ask a principal to conduct a performance review, maybe once, twice, 3 times a year, just to gauge my growth and my development as a teacher. I know not every principal will have time for that. They are very busy beings in the school front, but that would be my goal. And just to kind of get an outside perspective of my strengths and weaknesses as a teacher in a classroom. I just think that's really great. And then it kind of gives you someone who has more experience and has a little more, I guess, information to give. And it allows them to give you this information in an unbiased way. It also just really helps because if they're watching you, they can catch things that you might miss on your own, because it's hard to really self-assess when you're in the moment when you are teaching. So just having this person watch you from the outside might be a little more beneficial. And then my last data source is student reflection. So one of my major teaching principles has always been, I think it's really important for students to incorporate their opinions and their voice in everything teachers do. So because you're with them every single day and you're teaching them, you want to incorporate their likes, their dislikes, their opinions, their preferences. So I thought this would be a really great opportunity to do that. So I said student reflections would be really helpful. Student reflections help the teacher understand what practices and classroom management skills are worth continuing and which ones are lacking in efficiency. So that's why I really wanted to highlight that. So my triangulation, so there are 3 types of data sources I've chosen to use. There's Kelsey. In my research study were online journals, performance reviews, and student reflections. Both the performance review and student reflections demonstrate validity through the truthfulness of their purpose. A performance review will review your classroom management strategies and techniques and give you a detailed understanding of your strengths and weaknesses of controlling a classroom as a beginning teacher. This source also offers an outside perspective and will allow a newcoming teacher to pick up on techniques they might be lacking or areas of confidence they can improve on, such as discipline or classroom structure or routine. Secondly, I highly believe in recommend in studying student opinion and student reflections in relation to classroom management. Each and every class you encounter is different, therefore understanding their points of view and what works well for their classroom specifically is massively important. By asking the class you are in charge of what their views are on classroom management and what strategies work best for their learning styles, you incorporate both truthfulness and believability into your research. This is a great primary source because you're gaining insight from the most important subject in the study, which is the students. Finally, working with online journals provides a great detail of reliability, as you can take these sources in previous entries of work as conducted by other teachers in the same profession and implement them into your own classroom environment. These studies are an amazing data source because it broadens your research horizons to concepts as emerging researchers might not see. I really like the concept as that we're not just emerging teachers, but we're emerging researchers as well. That's really important for us. So for example, classroom management provides such a large window of opportunity beyond just structure and routine in a classroom. Online journal sources have opened my eyes to the importance of classroom environment as a classroom management tool, as well as open space for open thinking. So again, just relating back to that online journal I did talk about, where it said that the physical space of a classroom is just as important for classroom management as a discipline structure or strategy. So participants and setting, who's involved and where will the data be collected. In my research study, I'll be looking at primary and junior level students or students in grades kindergarten to grade 6. I would collect the data during my final placement. This is just hypothetical, obviously, because we're not actually collecting the data. But I would do it with my grade 6 students from Joshua Creek Public School in Oakville. My grade 6 class provided very strong and opinionated feedback in relation to my teaching strategies and my management principles. I did actually have the pleasure of having a discussion with my grade 6s at the end of my placement about my classroom management, and they were quite funny. They told me I was not strict enough, so that kind of made me laugh, but it was really good to have their feedback and kind of gauge what they thought as young adults. So I really, really valued that and loved that time with them. So I would additionally ask my principal to come watch me, and then throughout my placement just continue to research online journals to keep up with current data. So ethical considerations, obviously throughout my research, I will ensure confidentiality by never revealing the true identity or location of my students. Above, I would take out Joshua Creek, for example. I left that in for this purpose to show you the difference. So my research will never include personal information. If a name is needed or used, an alias will be used to hide their true identity. Additionally, any adult participating in my research will sign a participation form that allows them to understand what they're signing up for and what they're a part of. If at any point in time they do not feel comfortable, I will immediately allow them to remove themselves from the research. That is completely and totally accessible. So my timeline chart and the data of my collection. So the type of data I have planned to use are anecdotal notes, which will be taken weekly. Throughout the week, I'll just make little notes of things I noticed that work, positive outcomes of student success, or effectiveness of classroom management strategies. I want to do a personal reflective journal. So every Friday afternoon, I want to make a conscious effort to reflect on the week and review those anecdotal notes from the week, and just take little notes and relate back to my online journals or my sources that I've used and say how they were successful or how they weren't. Student reflection, so every other Friday I would have students complete a questionnaire or reflection piece on how their classroom management strategies and techniques are used and if they were effective or not, so I know what to continue and what not to. And then finally, the principal assessment. So September, January, and June are where I would aim to have a principal come sit in my classroom and just observe and assess my classroom management strategies. So just my closing slides. After completing this action research study, my knowledge and understanding of classroom management and confidence as a newfound teacher has developed greatly. This project in designing this study plan has given me such a great and detailed resource to reference throughout the majority of my teaching career. I have researched really great online journal articles that talk about the benefits of classroom routine, classroom environments, and discipline and structure for students. This action research study plan is easy to access and share with others who are interested in the benefits and strategies that educational research has to provide. So, and then I just have my citations at the end. So that pretty much sums up my action research plan. I had a really amazing time researching this topic and learning more about confidence in classroom management as a beginning teacher. This project also opened my eyes to the possibilities of being a researcher as well as an educator and the benefits this does have on this profession. So thanks so much for listening. Take care, guys.